Tea or Coffee, a film podcast with Thomas and Joe, with theme music by bensound.org. See description for more information.
What's home? Welcome to the Tea and Coffee podcast where we talk movies, films and related media. My name is Thomas and I'm drinking a cup of tea, and joining me is my co-host Joe.
I'm drinking a cup of coffee.
It's awards season. The Golden Globes were a few weeks ago. The Academy Award nominations have just been announced, and so we're going to be talking about a movie that won a Golden Globe and probably will win the Academy Award for Best Animated Picture. It's Zootopia, or Zootropolis as it's known here in the UK. It's about a year since the film came out, but we both saw it recently, so we're going to talk about it. So I'm just going to read the plot synopsis and then we'll go straight in. So from the largest elephant to the smallest shrew, the city of Zootopia is a mammal metropolis where various animals live and thrive. When Judy Hopps becomes the first rabbit to join the police force, she quickly learns how tough it is to enforce the law. Determined to prove herself, Judy jumps at the opportunity to solve a mysterious case. Unfortunately, that means working with Nick Wilde, a wily fox who makes the job even harder. So Joe, you saw this film. What are your overall thoughts to begin with?
I really enjoyed it. I thought the animals were pretty funny, quite cute at times, and I thought it was like well-designed story. Although it was definitely pushing for a kind of deeper meaning. It didn't feel too forceful though. It was quite obvious that it was almost a political film. Yeah,
it very much had its message that it wanted to get across, but at the same time, just overall, it was sort of a very sort of adorable piece of film. It's sort of very cutely animated, very sort of wonderful design. I mean, we've both of us have grown up sort of very much with the rise of animated films. We're both childs of the 90s, and Toy Story came out in 1995, I believe. So we've sort of seen sort of a progress of animated films, and this is a pretty flawless film to watch. It's sort of, they've completely mastered that sort of form of making film.
Visually stunning.
I know, and just all the characters in the background, all the fur simulations. So overall, do you think sort of the idea, the story of sort of a cop who's from a background there haven't been no cops from before, it's a very primitive background, it's very sort of, it's a predator versus prey sort of background, and sort of she rises up to sort of be the successful cop. Do you think that was sort of how did you feel about that story as a whole?
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. In a sense, it felt like quite a good cop drama, as it were.
Yeah.
But done slightly differently, so not the kind of generic that you get for live action. It felt like it was a really good way of doing it. Like they used the animation. The fact that they were animals kind of meant that they were able to tackle bigger subjects, but not provocatively in the sense that would annoy people.
Yeah.
So it's predator and prey. There's no real life kind of discrimination there. It moves away from anything we have in our environment, so that you can apply that discrimination to anything.
Yep.
Rather than it just be color, gender, or something like that, or race. It's you can apply it to anything.
And it just amazed me. Sort of, we're at a stage now where we can have this sort of this buddy cop drama between this bunny and this fox, and it to actually sort of really work well, because it doesn't feel sort of, and normally sort of a buddy cop you have to have two actors with a great chemistry working together, and in many ways this was sort of like, well, we can now replicate that with sort of animation to such an extent that we've sort of got this very sort of fun dynamic between the two of them.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's amazing to see the kind of subtle emotions, subtle expressions. Just looking at the cover of the Blu-ray here, all the different animals, their frowns and kind of facial expressions are so human-like in a way that before you could do, but just not as subtly.
Yeah.
This gets it down to a level that you just couldn't imagine. And it just kind of does a really good range and touches on kind of human subjects. I mean, I like that they've got the yak who does yoga in the nude spa, and then they've got the little sheep who's an assistant to the lion wanting to take over. They've got the sloth at the DMV. It's got them and the way they take ages, etc. I really like that, and then also it's got the homage to The Godfather.
Oh yeah, with the mole,
the little mole who's got the I'll make you an offer you can't refuse and everything like that. And then you come here into my house on my daughter's wedding. Literally, it's his daughter's wedding.
Yeah.
And then there's also the kind of homage to Breaking Bad.
Oh yeah, where the true Rams
Spoiler
had
alert.
making the drug. Yeah, I should just say at the start, this is an entire spoiler heavy. It's been out a year. If you haven't seen it, you probably aren't that bothered about spoilers. Yeah, spoiler alert, the two Rams are called something like Walter and Jesse or something like that.
Yes, yeah, they are. Yeah, and they're in their little yellow lab suits and stuff.
So it's a very culturally aware film in that sense, and that it picks up on various sort of things of today which are popular and sort of brings them across.
Yeah, it manages to appeal to more than one generation.
Yeah.
And without the typical kind of Disney double entendre that they have. So, yeah, I like that, and I thought it was just, it was very clever, and it knew that it had those things, so it embraced them.
Yeah. And I think that's just something that's done very well in this film, which is universe building. It's built this city, it's built this world, and it does so without sort of having to sort of bash you over the head explaining everything. It just takes a lot of things just for granted without sort of too much exposition. It's got some exposition. It's got that start montage when they're always kids and she does a presentation about Zootopia. But it's not, doesn't feel too heavy with sort of exposition. It just builds, but it does build a world very successfully, which is what we were talking about before with last time with Rogue One, where sort of we sometimes felt we were jumping around a little and sort of we didn't always get used to every place we were at. And then sort of, but that's the idea of universe building is sort of very sort of key to sort of a successful film, because if you're inside, if you very quickly become immersed in this universe, you become very much sort of invested in this universe, then it becomes very sort of it's easy to have emotional beats throughout the film. Yeah,
definitely. I'd say like you said it really. You didn't question it. It felt logical. It's animals running a whole world, but at the same time, you didn't question that one moment.
Yeah.
It just felt kind of logical. Their city was amazingly built.
Oh yeah.
And that's partly what makes the animation stand out, is that it's not just the foreground, it's everything. Feels kind of organic. You can see the light, the physics of it works. It just, it feels good. And then, when she discovers Zootropolis, or not discovers, but reaches it and is on the train, that moment felt almost similar to the Hunger Games, when Katniss reaches the city. I know you haven't seen Hunger Games, but it felt similar in the kind of, just in the sense
almost
of
Jurassic World,
you felt the emotion.
Jurassic Park, sort of that sort of feeling as well. So let's talk about the characters as a whole. You've got the main duo, Judy Hopps and Nick Wilde. Apparently, their names were. I didn't know Nick's surname was Wilde, or.
No, I didn't know his surname. I just knew she was Officer Hopps.
Officer Hopps, that's right. Yeah. So she was pretty interesting character, I suppose.
Engaging.
Sort of engaging, and sort of it had a nice sort of dynamic to it, I suppose, where she starts off sort of being very sort of enthusiastic for this world, for this job, and as the film goes on, she increasingly just faces adversity and trouble, and she just constantly gets knocked back to a point at which where she actually says, "I'm going to hang up the uniform and go back and sell carrots."
Yeah,
and that's where it was sort of, I thought, very sort of. I mean, it didn't go full Pixar. If this had been Pixar making this film, then Buzz doesn't fly at the end of. Well, he does fly at the end of Toy Story, but he doesn't fly properly at the end of Toy Story. It's sort of, he has to learn to be content with sort of the lesser thing that he ends up with, that he's a toy, not a space ranger, or Monsters University, where Mike ends up sort of being, he can't actually be a scarer because he's not scary. But that's sort of, so this is more sort of classical Disney, where she does, by the end of the film, it's like, Bridie, work hard enough, it won't always be easy, but you can sort of live your dream sort of thing.
Yeah, and one thing that I thought was interesting is her character was the kind of like good cop, and then you had the fox who was the kind of bad cop. But if you think about it, she was actually quite a bad policewoman. If we were kind of rigorously adhering to the law, she broke quite a bit of it with her, like her techniques for getting into a place she thought a crime had happened.
Yeah,
very kind of skirting around the rules. So it was just, that was a bit different in that there was this whole kind of thing about how she was following the rules, and then she kind of breaks a whole load of them without even mentioning it.
Yeah, I mean, she threatens the fox. She says, "Look, I can put you in prison, but I'm not going to provided you help me." Now that's not particularly. I don't think her job inscription allows her to do that.
No, ethically, it's not correct for a police.
All the time when sort of the mole is about to ice both her and the fox, and sort of like, okay, this is attempted murder. You're just going to let that slide because he didn't actually kill you.
Yeah.
It's sort of. It's that's the thing. When it comes to that's for me, that slightly undermines sort of the message of a film. Where if you're having a film which is building up to this big sort of moral lesson, and then you have your characters acting sort of pretty, sort of in an immoral way, throughout the film, it's sort of like, well, sure, we taught our children how to not be too sort of discriminatory or whatever, but at the same time we did teach them to sort of let the mafia do their job and let criminals
bend the rules a little bit,
provided it suits you to.
Yeah. I guess it was trying to kind of, I don't know, maybe part of it was that they didn't know how they'd move the plot if they didn't.
Yeah.
And then also, I guess they're hoping children won't read into it too much.
Yeah, which is for me
adults
is
like
fine.
us that will.
Yeah, I think with a film like this, you ultimately do say sort of, look, there is sort of a level to which this film goes and doesn't go further. If you try and take it further, then it's just going to, as with any story, it's just going to fall apart. You're going to have all these issues, sort of, what about this, what about this, what about this, and sort of. It's not trying to present an entirely. I mean, firstly, scientifically, it's not going to start hanging together if you start pushing it. But just in all sorts of other ways as well. It's sort of like you have to suspend belief up until a point, and then you can enjoy the film. If you don't suspend belief up to that point, you're going to sit here going, "Why isn't a fox eating a rabbit? Did they really talk all predators in the city to become vegetarians? How did that work? How are all predators' digestive systems altered so that they don't need meat or whatever?" It's like we don't need that.
Yeah, we just got to leave some of the things alone, I guess.
Yeah,
and just take what they're trying to say.
Mm-hmm.
What did you think of Shakira's appearance as the gazelle? Was she called Giselle or something?
I think she was called Gazelle.
Okay, not even Giselle, just called Gazelle.
Let me pull up the Wikipedia page and find out. It's just called Gazelle. Apparently the type of animal she is a Thompson's gazelle, and she also voices Gazelle in the Spanish dub of a film. So
okay, no, I thought that. I guess that was partly just a piece for publicity, because although it was kind of funny, there's a moment where the police captain is using her little app and stuff. That's funny, but you don't need a whole character just for that.
No.
So I guess that was just I guess it brought in a kind of sense of a world. It built the universe in that it had a pop star.
It had a pop star, and a pop star who was happy to make political comments when sort of the time arose.
Definitely.
Which is sort of very much our world.
Yeah, and then at the end, the whole kind of musical cue where she dances with the tigers at the end. I think that bit was just aimed at the children, and that's when you remembered that this is a film mainly aimed at kind of 10-year-olds and below. The whole kind of bit where they hope the children in the cinema will start singing with Shakira and dance and all that.
Yeah.
We stopped the film at that point, guys, just in case you're wondering.
Well, it was New Year's Eve, and it was about to be New Year's Day, so we had to stop at some point.
Yeah.
I mean, this film also, speaking of characters, had quite an impressive cast here. It had Idris Elba as Chief Bogo, the African buffalo, who was the chief police of Zootopia Police Department. It had J.K. Simmons as Leonard Lionheart, a lion who is noble but pompous mayor of Zootopia. We had Alan Tudyk, who was obviously, of course, K2SO from Rogue One, who played Duke Weaselton, gets chased by Hops through that mouse place. So, what do you think of this film's sort of secondary cast with sort of characters like the fox back at home, who sort of is a reformed bully, or the parents who sort of start off being very sort of overly protective? What do you think of sort of that home environment? What about those characters?
I think it was really nice to see that, just because, well, it kind of reminded me of someone's experience when they moved to a really big city without their family, and how they miss the family, and they want to work there, etc. I thought that was quite realistic. Like, you have the bullies in the city are still bullies, but she goes home and realised that one's not a bully anymore.
No.
So it kind of helps her to believe in what she first came for. So I liked the way that just gave a kind of lighter side to it.
Yep.
Yeah, I was really happy about that.
And again, I think in these films often it is simplification. I don't think the parents are sort of presented slightly negatively for their protectiveness, but I don't think there's anything wrong with having protective parents. But at the same time, sort of, yeah, that idea, it's almost like the university experience here, where someone goes off to university in a different city, or even from country to the city, and the parents are sort of very anxious about them, and often quite rightly so. But this film sort of shows that the parents can actually have a lot of sort of faith in sort of Judy, because she is actually quite a sensible, if slightly energetic, character.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think it was quite nice when she did go back home and sort of the bully is sort of redeemed, and sort of that sort of adds sort of an element of sort of where something. Maybe that just feels like when you're growing up, where something when you're younger feels so big, so important. There's this person, they just feel sort of terrifying. They're just bigger than you. They're sort of they're quite rude, and so when you grow up, you suddenly realise that bully wasn't actually sort of that significant. It hasn't affected your life so much.
Yeah, it doesn't.
And
really
actually, you don't really need to let that bully get to you, because what they actually did and said wasn't really that significant. I'm not condoning bullies, saying that's fine because everyone will grow out of it, but it's sort of that sort of way, that sort of something big when you're younger. When you're older, you can put it in perspective and say, actually, we can sort of move on from that. And actually, the bully has also moved on from that. He's sort of whatever caused him to be sort of nasty when he was younger. Sort of he's now sort of a nice sort of working lad for the rabbits.
Yeah.
Well, we've got to do our rating system.
Oh yeah, we got to rate this film.
I'm just seeing. Well, should we just briefly talk about the villain as well? The rabbit.
Oh yeah. No, it wasn't a rabbit. It was a
sheep. Sorry, a lamb.
Yeah, a little lamb. Yeah, no, I thought that was really fun. It took me by surprise, I have to say.
Yeah.
I think I kind of when there was the lion and they made it seem like he was a villain, I think that was a really good moment, because it kind of showed her as the little bunny cop. It kind of introduced the whole idea of people aren't necessarily completely bad, but and not completely good. But at the same time, it was right to put him in prison, for example.
Yeah, because he was committing kidnap.
Yeah,
he was doing it.
Kidnapping
he was doing
people
it for nice motives, but he was still committing kidnap.
Yeah, so it brought in a sense of realism there, and that's kind of good. And it's a bit of a step away from how Disney films used to be, where you had the baddie who was the baddie kind of thing, and either they were the baddie or they said sorry and became a complete goodie.
Yeah.
Whereas this kind of has moved towards, like we were saying with the Rogue One, where you have these kind of grey characters.
Yeah.
Obviously, he's slightly different to anything in most adult films, but it was quite interesting to have. It felt like the film was about to end, and then you realise it wasn't, and that was quite fun.
Yeah.
I enjoyed that twist.
Yeah, and sort of it led into that third act where sort of, in many ways, actually, Judy Hopps becomes a villain for part of it, where, or at least her words do, or just her interpretation of the events do, sort of where she feels that this is sort of a predator thing. Sort of it's intuitive to predators that sort of is causing them to go evil.
Yeah.
When it's actually sort of this conspiracy by the sheep to
make the predators look bad.
Yeah. when she shoots the fox with the dart and he's come to eat Judy, did you think that maybe this was a fake, or did you get that twist? Or
I didn't know what was going on, but I was sitting there like, oh, he's not going to be bad in the end. He's like going to manage to get through it. So at first I thought it was going to be like some kind of, oh yeah, he's a predator, but he doesn't have to be a predator. Even if you give him drugs, he's managed to like remove himself from it. But I felt like that would have been a really bad conclusion.
It would have been a very typical sort of this person's under mind control, but I talked him out of it.
Yeah, exactly. So I was really pleased with the way it did. It worked out really well. So yeah, for a kids film, I thought it was brilliantly scripted, and just everything was believable and fitted together in a way that a lot of adult films often don't, actually. So it's impressive what they managed to do.
And I think that's also interesting that again, that they went for the mystery storyline, I suppose, and they didn't sort of hold back on that sort of police genre. they sort of had the twist, and they had another twist, and they did another little small twist as well. It's sort of, they were happy to sort of keep the audience sort of guessing rather than just to sort of go with, these are two funny characters sort of hanging out together and solving crimes, and at some point they'll come to realise that sort of they can actually work together, and sort of their form of discrimination against one another sort of can break down or whatever. So let's go to the rating system. As we explained first time, we rate films and television programs and other media as we compare it to a type of drink and whatever, and sort of we try and equate it to
beverage.
What a beverage and how and why sort of it's that drink. Do you have one?
Yeah, I'm gonna say for this one, I'd say like a really, really nice, tasty lemonade. Done by, I don't know, a kind of like organic company. So it's not a strong drink like an alcoholic drink or anything.
Yeah.
But it's at the same time really well made. So like a kind of fancy lemonade, not a Tesco lemonade. Tesco, we love your lemonades anyway. Well, I don't, but my wife does.
We should say that other supermarkets are available here.
Yeah. We're not paid by Tesco.
For case of neutrality.
But like a really decent quality one, organic, etc. It tastes good. It's really sweet, but while it's got some kind of lasting memory, it's not like something that's gonna. I think I've got my message across. I'm just blathering on now. Go on.
Okay, I think I was going to go for sort of a nice sort of chocolate milkshake, where it's very sort of. It's a sort of a drink a kid would love, and as an adult you can still appreciate, even if you're not going to drink it as often as they do.
Yeah, that sounds good.
And it's a drink sort of, which is sort of, it's sort of wholesome. It's got milk in it. At the same time, it's also got quite a lot of energy in it. It's quite sort of excitable. It's got lots of sugar, and sort of I also feel that was this. It's a very sort of excitable film. It's a film that's going to appeal more to a younger audience. But even as an older audience, you can still sort of appreciate it on some level.
Yeah.
So that's the end of the talk about Zootropolis or Zootopia. We've got still some time left, so we're going to be talking about some of the news of the past fortnight. Today is Oscar nomination day, so shall we talk about some Oscar nominations?
Yeah, shall I give a read through the list here?
Yeah, you can do.
So for Best Picture, we have Arrival, which I need to watch still. Fences, Hacksaw Ridge, Hell or High Water, Hidden Figures, La La Land, which I did watch, Lion, Manchester by the Sea, Moonlight, and then for Best Director we have Arrival. So Denis Villeneuve, or however you pronounce his name.
Yeah, we're going to butcher some of his names.
Exactly. So he's got Arrival. Mel Gibson on Hacksaw Ridge. Interesting to see a kind of faith-based film nominated for
and not for
an Oscar,
and for it not to be silence as well.
What do you mean? Sorry.
As in, it's Hacksaw Ridge, not silence.
Yes. Yeah. It's not. That is interesting because Hacksaw Ridge.
You think that Scorsese would be better
suited for a typical Oscar?
than Mel Gibson.
Yeah, that's interesting actually, because Hacksaw Ridge, while it looks good, doesn't look like the typical kind of Oscar contender in the sense that, But I'd be interested to watch that because it must be quite good. Well, hopefully.
Yeah, well, it's got Oscar nominated.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be terrible.
Yeah. Then, of course, we have Damien Chazelle with La La Land. We have Kenneth Lonergan, Manchester by the Sea, and Barry Jenkins with Moonlight. And then for Best Actress, we have Isabelle Huppert from Elle, Ruth Negga from Loving, Natalie Portman from Jackie, which looks nice, shot on 16mm. And then Emma Stone from La La Land. Meryl Streep from Florence Foster Jenkins.
I think that's a record nomination for Streep. I don't think any actor or actress has been nominated for more. I can't remember if she already had that or if she was tied, but it's sort of...
This has put her apart.
Yeah, I mean, it's Streep, isn't it? It's sort of like every year almost every year she gets nominated for something or the other. She won't win this year, probably. I mean, it's probably going to Stone or Portman, but...
Yeah, no, Portman looks like she could have it for Jackie. Though Emma Stone was very good in La La Land. I'm not sure I'd put it as an Oscar. As in, I'm not sure I'd put it as one which should win the Oscar because it was a brilliant performance, but I don't know if it's the one that I'd read quite as much of that into that role. Like, it was a very good role, etc.
Yeah.
Just not necessarily the toughest to portray. But Emma Stone did brilliantly in it.
Yeah.
And
But she didn't win for Birdman, did she? A few years ago.
No.
So, yeah. I mean, I think it's a second nomination.
Yeah. I mean, I think Emma Stone at some point should get an Oscar. She's doing brilliantly. But
Yeah.
Okay, and then for Best Actor, we have Casey Affleck
Yeah.
for Manchester by the Sea, Andrew Garfield for Hacksaw Ridge. Hacksaw Ridge again, another face-based film. Well, the same one from before, but yeah. Ryan Gosling from La La Land. No surprise there. Viggo Mortensen from Captain Fantastic.
Viggo Mortensen's back.
Yeah.
I haven't seen him for ages.
Yeah.
Well, no, I've never seen him, but in films for some time. Obviously, he has been in stuff, but it's been very small.
Yeah.
But he's got an Oscar nomination.
Oh, and Ryan Gosling, I feel like with La La Land, he's actually managed to separate his style of performance a bit, because from the usual kind of, hi, I'm Ryan Gosling kind of voice, and he's kind of managed to develop a bit.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not that I didn't like his performances before, it's just that I quite enjoyed this different style. Yeah. He's not quite so nice, though. It's similar character to the one he did in American Gangster.
Yep.
Like a kind of hero, but at the same time he's got this roguishness to him.
Yeah.
And then Viggo, Denzel Washington for Fences, which looks really quite moving and powerful.
Yep.
Best Supporting Actress, we've got Viola Davis for Fences again, Naomi Harris for Moonlight, Nicole Kidman for Lion, Octavia Spencer for Hidden Figures, Michelle Williams for Manchester by the Sea. And then Best Supporting Actor, we have, Mahershala Ali for Moonlight. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly or almost correctly. Jeff Bridges for Hell or High Water. Lucas Hedges for Manchester by the Sea. Dev Patel for Lion. Michael Shannon for Nocturnal Animals.
So, how many more do we want to go? Because obviously we've got quite a number of categories.
Yeah, I'll probably just go to Best Cinematography now.
Okay.
Yeah, skip the others, which I'll read through in my own time. So, for Best Cinematography, there's Arrival, La La Land, Lion, Moonlight, and Silence. All of which I think have a really good chance.
Yeah. That's going to be... that's probably going to be one of the closely fought categories.
Yeah, there's some stunning stuff.
Should we talk about visual effects as well? Deep Horizon, Doctor Strange, The Jungle Book, Kubo and Two Strings, Rogue One, A Star Wars Story. And that's going to be... What do you think's got that one?
I haven't watched The Jungle Book. From the clips I've seen, it looks pretty good.
Yeah.
Doctor Strange, I've heard, was pretty stunning.
I've seen Doctor Strange twice. I don't think it'll win because Jungle Book's got animated animals.
Yeah.
And I think that's, with all the fur effects, I think that's just going to take it.
Pretty...
So while Doctor Strange has some very trippy sequences and some very impressive sequences, I don't think it's pushing the technology in the same sense that Jungle Book is. Jungle Book is hyper-realistic.
Incredible.
I know.
Incredibly difficult to get done properly.
And again, I think similarly with Rogue One, A Star Wars Story, why that was visually stunning.
Yeah, I don't know if I'd have put it for best visual effects, because it didn't feel like something we'd never seen before.
No, I mean, obviously they might be pushing for Tarkin.
Yeah.
But that's been fairly... That's had quite a bit of talk about that for and against, so I don't know if that would win. Yeah,
I don't think I'd put that in there. And just quickly, I saw Best Animated Film. It's got Zootopia, and then obviously it's got Kubo and the Two Strings is also in there.
Yeah.
While I haven't watched Kubo and the Two Strings, I kind of feel like in some ways, for the amount of work they put in to get that as stunning as they did, I mean, that was hand animated.
Yeah.
In some ways, I think that should have it. I don't quite know what the story is like, because obviously Zootopia was very tight in terms of story. But yeah, some really good nominations this year.
Pixar missed out, they didn't, Best Animated Picture. No Finding Dory.
Oh yeah, yeah. But then Finding Dory was kind of it was good, but not not.
I mean, I'm not surprised, but at the same time, Pixar to not be nominated is more of a surprise than Pixar to be nominated.
Yeah,
because they've got hundreds of awards in that category.
Yeah, and then Best Animated Film obviously is not. There's not that many kind of animations, so in a sense.
Yeah.
If Pixar makes something, it's going to be big and probably quite good.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think there's some really good nominations this year. I think I'll be watching the Oscars this time,
Mm-hmm.
and be interested to see what wins and what doesn't, and also have a watch through a few of these. We'll need to find a few of these to watch.
Jackie Chan has been given an honorary Academy Award as well.
Oh, okay.
So also just to do an overview, La La Land 14 nominations, Arrival 8, Moonlight 8, Hacksaw Ridge 6, Lion 6, Manchester by the Sea 6, Fences 4, Hell or High Water 4, Hidden Figures 3, Jackie 3, and the rest is either 2 or 1 nominations, but those are the ones with multiple nominations.
Wow.
So La La Land, that if they win all that, that'll be that'll be the biggest. Well, if they win every one of that, that's the biggest. That's the most ever. Currently, it's 11 for Return of the King, Titanic, and Ben-Hur, I think. So yeah, that's quite an impressive opportunity for them. They won't win all of them, but they'll probably win a lot of them.
I don't know if I'd La La Land. I think it should be on a level with those films you mentioned. I don't know about on top.
Yeah.
But it's very good. That's for definite. You should have a watch at some point.
The impressive thing about Return of the King, though, is that it won 11 awards without any acting nominations.
Yeah.
And that's 4 awards it wasn't up for, and it still won 11. That's
very impressive. It makes sense that it didn't win the acting nominations, because while it was good performances, it wasn't focused on any kind of character in a sense. So it's hard to get a truly performance that's going to win awards when you're not focusing on one person. Mm-hmm. It's always hard to get it with an ensemble cast.
Yeah. The only Fellowship of the Ring got a nomination for Ian McKellen, and that was it. They didn't get any other acting nominations, which sort of makes sense, particularly, I suppose, in the Best Actress role, because there are very few female characters in those films.
Yeah.
So, moving on, should we talk about Logan? There was a trailer recently, last week.
Yeah, it looks moving. It definitely looks good, and it was nice to see some more information, because obviously we had the one with the Cash song, which was brilliant and kind of also moving, but in a very different way. It didn't give you much to go on. Mm-hmm. This one is a really interesting concept that kind of they've now pushed the mutants completely away, and they don't want them in the world anymore. Yeah,
it's sort of a time where the mutants are either dying out, or there's been some virus, or someone's been hunting them, or something like that. Anyway, there aren't many mutants around. Wolverine's old, his healing factor's not really working properly, which is why he's got all those scars. And Professor X is this really old guy who's struggling to do anything, really.
Yeah.
And then this younger mutant comes along, and they've got to care for her.
Yeah. And she seems to be incredibly valuable and powerful for some reason that we don't yet know, but
I assume
we'll discover.
I assuess someone's been experimenting on her, because she's got the metal claws like Wolverine.
Yeah.
And obviously they wouldn't grow there naturally, so someone's been sort of trying to mess around with her.
Redo a kind of Wolverine.
Yeah, make another Wolverine.
Seems quite interesting as well to... I mean, Wolverine, it feels like almost every single film about Wolverine, he starts off bitter and he becomes a bit more soft and falls in love with someone or likes someone, which is sometimes gets a bit... I don't know, I've got a bit tired of that, because it does feel like all his films.
It's like Spider-Man. All Spider-Man's films seem to be the same plot, where he's struggling with his powers, struggling with his love interest, and then a villain shows up who's a former mentor figure, and sort of it's with Wolverine, it can get very similar. He can just be sort of really sort of bitter of the world, but still gets around to doing the right thing at the end.
Yeah, I mean, Wolverine is like, he starts off, oh no, I won't help you, definitely not, I hate everyone. Yeah. And it's like, oh no, I will help you. So it'll be, but I think it's interesting to see him kind of helping a younger person and becoming almost a father figure.
And I think that's
as opposed to a love interest.
Yeah, I think Hugh Jackman will actually do really well, because sort of I suppose it's Les Miserables, really. Sort of he really was good in that role, and it's sort of it'll be interesting to see him do something similar here. Yeah. On a scale of 1 to 10, what do you reckon he's going to die at the end of the film?
Oh, I don't know. I kind of don't want him to.
And
at the same time, he's always alive again at some point. So and I kind of wonder how he can be alive again with obviously Marvel with their which one was it? Oh no, it was the X-Men, the most recent one. He appears in that. I don't quite know how that fits into the whole timeline, but
the X-Men film's timeline does not work categorically. Nerds have spent ages trying to figure out how it works. The best possible option is that every film takes place in a slightly different universe, and that sort of makes the most sense, because everything it doesn't add up. But at the same time, they're sort of aware of that now, so it doesn't really matter. This is just some far-flung future where Wolverine's old and Professor
Yeah.
X is old and there's a new mutant on.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, interesting with the guy with the metal arm as well.
Oh yeah,
and
the
all
guy
that.
with metal arm. Yeah. I can't remember what they're called. They're called singing comics. I can't remember what they are.
Okay. So how much do I think he'll die? I think he's fairly likely to die.
I'd give it a 7, I think.
Yeah. But then they could go for a storyline where he doesn't die, but he kind of maybe loses most of his powers and is simply there to look after this girl and kind of help her.
He could, I suppose, at the end of the film, it could be the case that she's the first of a new race of mutants, and he's going to be sort of a Professor X older mentor character.
Yeah.
And so maybe the film's more about Professor X handing on that torch to him rather than sort of him sort of actually dying.
Yeah.
Because, yeah, I mean, I don't know what the plans are for Professor X. I mean, he might be even more likely to die than Wolverine in this film.
I think I'm pretty definite that he'll die.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Again, he's already died once, so.
Yeah, but so is Wolverine, so
yeah.
Who knows?
Yeah. So next I've got Rogue One has made $1 billion.
No surprise there.
No. Probably will be the biggest film of 2016. Might not. It's still got a bit of a way to catch Civil War, but that's about it.
But Disney has a huge market and huge power in terms of marketing things, distribution. They have huge departments that are 24/7 dedicated to that. Unlike another company which has to hire someone else to do their publicity, Disney simply does it the whole time for all of their films. So it's quite unlikely for a Disney movie to not make money in a sense. And I mean, this is doing a lot more than only making a little bit. It's making tons.
Yeah, it's not, as we said last time, it's not making lots of money in China, but Star Wars has never historically performed well in China anyway, so it's not that much of a surprise. Next, are you familiar with comic book character Shazam?
No.
Okay. Well, Dwayne Johnson is playing Shazam villain Black Adam in a standalone film. As far as I'm aware, the basic premise of Shazam and his villain Black Adam is that they're normal human beings who say the word Shazam and then they turn into a superhero or supervillain. And Dwayne Johnson has been attached to do this film for years. He's finally doing it, and he says that it's going to be really fun, which sounds a little odd considering how
Typical Dwayne Johnson.
Typical Dwayne Johnson, but maybe he's one who can come into the DC universe and make it more uplifting and positive.
Yeah, perhaps DC needs a bit of a shock. Because that so far they've been a bit kind of bringing miserable. Everybody to tears.
Yeah.
I don't know. That sounds quite ridiculous.
Yeah, but that's the thing. Can you
say Shazam and become a superhero? That sounds like there's no way to make that not cringy.
Yeah.
I mean, perhaps they'll embrace the cheesiness, but that doesn't feel very DC.
Yeah, well, I suppose that's the thing, though. That doesn't feel like DC in film. It's been saying it's in DC in comics for years. DC has quite a lot of lighter characters in the comics, like Green Lantern and sort of Flash. And Shazam is
Green
sort of
Lantern is just kind of the way he becomes a superhero. It doesn't feel stupid, but yes, he is a kind of a stupid guy in the sense.
Yeah, he's got a ring and he can do whatever his imagination wants him to do.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, if you think about like Suicide Squad, where you've got kind of Harley Quinn, who's dark, kind of brooding and sensual, and then all the other characters who are very kind of real, like you got Deadshot, who he's a superhero in a sense of he's extremely accurate and all that, but he's not really he's not really even a supervillain. He's a really good sniper. Yeah. Really good with guns.
I think what you meant by say was the Oscar-nominated Suicide Squad. It's best hair and makeup.
Oh. Huh? Yeah, I guess makeup actually was pretty good. You've got the Croc character, and that was pretty incredible.
And Harley Quinn's design is pretty good. And the Joker's design...
but Harley Quinn's not really hair and makeup.
But she's got hair.
Yeah, but like her hair is not...
and she's very pale after falling into an acid bath or something.
Oh, I don't know.
And you got tattoos on the Joker, and so it probably won't.
That's a stretch.
That's a very small category. It's got three. It's got A Man Called Ov, Star Trek Beyond, and Suicide Squad.
I would have thought Rogue One would have got more for their makeup.
Yeah, but I mean, Rogue One got visual effects and sound mixing. It didn't get costume design. Then again, costume design, it wasn't using original designs. It was all very much sort of. Really. But we didn't get production design either. Again, I suppose maybe because it used a lot of traditional designs. But yeah, that's interesting.
It seems a bit strange. But yeah.
Avengers Infinity War has started filming, and it's
Okay.
going to be filming in Scotland for
Oh wow.
quite some time. It started in Atlanta, but it's going to be in Scotland for like 6 months
Oh wow.
because they're filming Avengers Infinity War and the next Avengers film back to back.
Yeah.
And they got like 60 characters in it because
Oh my goodness.
because they're basically bringing all their properties together: Guardians of the Galaxy, Avengers, Doctor Strange. It's all going to be.
This sounds crazy.
It's all going to be here because it's the big climax they've been building towards. Obviously, they're obviously not going to have a bigger climax later on because they're not going to sort of go, well, this is the end. But
Yeah, they've got to have more because they've got a plan for how many or ever films for like the rest of our lives.
Yeah.
So.
But this is the climax of what they're calling Phase 3. Phase 1 built to first Avengers, Phase 2 built to second Avengers, and Phase 3 is...
As long as it's better than the second Avengers.
Yeah.
Age of Ultron was a letdown.
That shouldn't be too hard, to be honest.
Yeah.
But again, they're juggling so many characters.
Age of Ultron was already... I mean, it wasn't a lot of characters, but what's his name? Ultron made it a lot of characters in a sense, with all his like replicas of himself. And then,
I hope they don't go for just the mass sort of huge army versus the Avengers. I hope they go for it's Thanos and Loki. And,
it's got to be interesting
and
characters.
lots of different smaller characters.
You need to care about the characters
who are going up against the Avengers.
Yeah.
Obviously, Civil War managed quite a big cast, but this is even bigger. So
Civil War concentrated quite a bit though. You had whole moments when most people weren't there.
Yeah, I suppose it didn't really serve characters like Ant-Man. Ant-Man just came in to be part of the fight
and sort of bit of funniness,
and left again later. And Spider-Man as well.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see how they manage that. Then again, Marvel have got a pretty good track record for the most part.
Yeah, well, they've got the money.
And they got the money. They've got Disney distributing for them. They've got lots of wonderful actors on board.
Yeah.
It'll be fun to see sort of Star-Lord and Iron Man have a conversation.
Interesting.
So, the big news of the week Star Wars Episode 8 has a title.
Yes, I don't know about this title.
And
Thomas,
Joe doesn't know what the title is because he's not been on the internet for the past 24 hours.
Yeah, whatever.
It is Star Wars Episode 8, The Last Jedi.
The Last Jedi.
And the internet has decided that it's going to have a big argument whether Jedi is singular or plural in that sentence, in that word.
Mm.
Is it The Last Jedi meaning an individual, The Last Jedi meaning a group of people? Who knows? Well, Rian Johnson does.
Well, I mean, we had the Return of the Jedi before. Maybe the next one will be a...
Return of the Jedi Part 2.
Exactly.
Someone's also pointed out that it spells out a sentence, The Force Awakens The Last Jedi. So maybe Episode 9 has to sort of carry on the sentence.
Who trains other Jedi?
Who trains other Jedi? Star Wars Episode 9, Who trains other Jedi?
Yeah, that's interesting. I'm looking forward to it because I like Star Wars.
Yeah, and we haven't obviously got very much about it yet. We've seen, we've got the title, and we've sort of, when they started production or something, they showed that very small clip, didn't they, of Rian Johnson shouting word cut or whatever. Did you see that?
Okay. No, I didn't see
it wasn't really anything. It was sort of just Rian Johnson saying, we're on that island where we filmed that scene with Luke and Ray, and we're filming again, isn't it great?
Okay.
But that was sort of about it. We haven't seen any sort of proper footage from the film yet. So, just speaking about Star Wars briefly, I watched the Star Wars Rebels episode with Saw Gerrera, which we talked about last time with Rogue One. And interesting to see how they handled him, because in this, I'm going to go spoiler heavy because you're not that interested in Star Wars Rebels, but Saw Gerrera in this sort of, he's on this planet. They go to find him on this planet. They just being a group of rebels. That's what Rebels is about. It's a planet where the Death Star was built, and he's trying to find out what went on here. They don't know about the Death Star, obviously.
Oh, okay.
And sort of he captures one of the locals who the Empire have been wiping out to keep the Death Star a secret. And sort of he threatens to sort of kill this local and his egg. So it's very much he's about to commit genocide in order to try and find out what he needs to know.
To stop genocide.
But then sort of rebels sort of convince him think about how his sister died in the Clone Wars, and sort of how if that should mean that sort of he should sort of be sparing of this Geonosian's family.
Yeah.
And it sort of headed down a Rogue One route before doing sort of a backtrack, and sort of Saw Gerrera at the end just comes out and he's sort of all like, I like family, and
he becomes a good guy again.
So they didn't sort of leave him as Rogue One almost left him sort of the embittered sort
waiting
of rogue,
to die alone.
waiting to die alone after sort of capturing these people and sort of torturing the pilot or whatever.
Yeah, Rogue One, he was a bit of a pointless character, but
Yeah,
there we go.
So I just thought I'd bring it up considering we talked about it. I have nothing else on my list, so that's the show.
Yeah, no, that sounds good.
So thank you very much for listening. Please subscribe to us on YouTube. We're still trying to get this on iTunes. We've had some problems. If you're listening to us on iTunes, we've got an iTunes. If you're not, then it might be on iTunes. Check it out. Bye from me. And
yeah, bye-bye. Have a good week.